Welcome to The Voice of Retail. I'm Michael LeBlanc, NRF Top Retail Voice for 2026 and Rethink Retail 2026 Top Retail Expert. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Tara Conway, welcome to The Voice of Retail podcast. I'm just past 500 episodes, and I'm not sure I've ever had you on the mic, which is, we got it. I'm happy we're fixing that. Welcome.
Thank you. I am shocked too, given how long we've known each other and in all of our different roles and all of our different brands, that we've never just sat down and formally chatted.
What the heck? Well, we're here to fix that. And thanks again for joining me. Where am I finding you today?
I am, I'm at home. I'm north of Hockley. I'm enjoying the Canadian weather.
A bit of snow up there, I hear, because there's a bit of snow here too.
Little bit of snow. We're used to it. It's glorious. Yeah. It's beautiful. We only have a few more weeks. What do we have? 50 days till spring. Counting it down.
All I can say, as I was saying to my neighbors, being a bit of a landscaper, is the lawns and gardens will be well hydrated heading into probably what will be a hot summer. So it's a bit of a blessing, actually, when you think about it over the mid to long term. Now, remember that when your backyard is flooding through your back windows.
Silver lining. We can find it everywhere.
Always a mixed blessing about something. Anyway, listen, so it's clearly apparent to anybody listening to us, you and I have known each other a bunch of years, and but let's not assume anybody else knows who exactly you are. So tell us about yourself. What's your background in retail, and what do you do today?
I have, Michael, I've been in retail almost all of my life. I grew up in a general store in a very, very small town north of Toronto. And from the age of 10, I was serving customers. I was merchandising. I was, being an influencer out on the street, talking about coming to the store. I didn't realize how much it shaped me, but it really did. And I have been in retail ever since. I was with Blacks, photography, before cell phones and selfies. And then I was with one of the best brands, I think, globally. I was with Toys R Us Canada. At the time when the World Wide Web was coming out and e-commerce was emerging and Amazon was still really small, hadn't become so dominant.
Yeah. What a brand, eh? Like it's funny because the contemporary Toys R Us is, whatever. But if you think historically, what a journey that brand was on. I mean, just a powerhouse destination, and then even in your line of work, made the decision, I think it was to have Amazon run its e-commerce globally. That was a big kerfuffle back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then the Canadian, I need to call this out because you and the team here in Canada did an amazing job. You were very, very profitable, and you were pulled under the waves, so to speak, as a business by the U.S. business, which is not an uncommon story, but it needs to be told more often that the Canadian business was great. It was profitable, and problem was, all the money went into a big, deep, dark hole in south of the border, right?
Absolutely. And, funny story, the reason why Toys R Us Canada launched their website first around the world, like we were the first ones to launch our own website, it was a testing ground. It was the testing ground for Toys R Us US as they were making the choices to dissolve their partnership or relationship with Amazon. That's right. And what they needed to do was launch a website, prove it out for the first year before they could launch a .com. So we were the testing ground, which was amazing. And
shout out to our friend Warren Cable, who was there as well, right?
Yes, he was. He was the OG at toysrus.ca.
Your story is familiar about launching in Canada to experiment globally. I did that with Levi Strauss back in '98, and Levi's basically said, and this is a direct way of putting it. Listen, let's do it in Canada, because if it works, then the lessons are quite. We can take those lessons and go globally with it. If it doesn't work, nobody will find out. So,
correct.
Nobody pays attention.
I left Blacks. I joined Toys R Us. Most recently, my last retail experience with The Source, which was, so fantastic to work at such a strong Canadian brand, but such a strong Canadian brand in consumer electronics during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So such an incredible experience to be part of helping Canadians connect during one of the most disruptive experiences I think any of us have ever gone through.
Yeah.
And we were there, we were there connecting them with families, connecting their kids with schools. It was
Making
just
it happen.
it was an incredible experience. I mean, not that I would ever wish it upon any other retailer, but I will never regret, being there at that time.
And then the source has been rolled over, so to speak, or transformed into Best Buy Express, right? So it's a Best Buy Bell partnership, just so we kind of track, right? Have I got that right?
That is 100% correct. Testing out the smaller footprint, which I think is a great strategy.
Yeah. I mean, they had good bones, good real estate. It had everything coming together. Well, listen, you've such a rich background of experience. Now, drawing on that experience, how does it shape your views on customer-centric innovation? I think at the source you also own customer experience and customer care in addition to e-commerce. So with all this background, what have you seen? And was there a moment that you saw that maybe it's AI now, but back then technology that's fundamentally changing retail? Talk about your experience in that.
Oh my goodness. I think that the most impactful change for me personally and for Toys R Us professionally was when we launched clienteling. It was the first time we actually connected the website with our physical stores. And to actually see the impact on our associates and on customers, it was so much bigger than what we had ever envisioned. I had $50,000 and I partnered with this random company, this random founder called Tulip. And he built something for us, like Ali built something for us that was so incredible. I'm not sure it's what he envisioned. It certainly maybe wasn't what I envisioned, but it was the evolution. This is where omnichannel came about. When we started to take technology, content, data that we knew about our customers and our product, and we put it in the hands of our associates, that's where I truly saw the impact start to, starting to really change how customers experienced the physical location, which was incredible. I think
say more about like the average customer would walk in, and what would the before and after experience be that would be so enlightened? What was that big difference?
Well, I would say it's on the Babies R Us side. And there's, we're dealing with new mothers. We're dealing with people making decisions for babies. People that are so, I think they're so passionate. They're so committed to making the right decisions. But at that point in time, you didn't really know much about the stroller you were choosing. Or you didn't know much about the crib you were choosing. We were able to take content and make it available in our store locations as customers were making those tough decisions. We're able to compare products. We're able to compare different attributes for each product. Prior to that, you were kind of going in blind. You were going in and talking to an associate who may not know the ins and outs of every stroller or every car seat. And for the new parents that are standing there trying to make these choices, these are momentous choices. They are huge because it's your new baby and you want to make the right one. So we saw transformation in our associates, but we saw transformation in our customer experience and the feedback that we were able to get from our customers. I think that's where we started to really see the elevation of the Babies R Us brand versus the Toys R Us brand.
No, that's interesting.
That's where it made such a difference in that customer journey. And I think it became how I approached everything going forward, whether it was a tablet or a stroller. Every decision, especially at these price points, is important. So the more information that we can give to the customer, the more trust we were able to build within the brand.
It's interesting because I remember seeing a store. I don't remember the name. It was a beauty store, and its hook, so to speak, it was on one of my retail tours in New York many, many years ago, was that it brought all the reviews in a dynamic fashion, like in almost like a shelf talker, to each product. And remember, even Amazon had their 4-star store, which ostensibly was, we're going to put products here that are ranked 4 stars or more. I don't really see a lot of that though these days. Like there's a ton of data and ratings and reviews, but I don't really see it very often transformed or transmitted to the shelf level. Do you see a lot of examples of that?
No, and I think you're right. And I think it has a lot to do with, the technology in the stores. How much can you truly put into it without causing friction for the consumer? I think I shop based on ratings and reviews. I think a lot of consumers shop on ratings and reviews, but with technology now and access for consumers, they do all of that work before they even go into our physical locations. They don't need the confirmation at store level. I think you see it more in the marketing versus in the visual merchandising within physical locations. It's easier to market it and consolidate it that way than to bring it to life especially with stores with thousands of SKUs. Like, is it relevant?
I guess you and I were talking off mic about snowblowers of all things. I was asking you bought a new one. I'm looking at buying one after this, after all the acupuncture on my back after a couple of days. I think there's we're riffing here a little bit, but I think there's an application for it at these big ticket purchases, right? So if I go into a box store like a Rona, we just saw Doug on the stage talking about Rona and his merchandising. I may have researched in advance, but I still like that. I think there's room for key categories at key times, snowblowers in the winter, lawnmowers in the summer, where you just, okay, here's 10. And it's a little overwhelming, right? But just put it in those key places. You probably don't need it for plumbing parts and all those other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and to your example, like strollers, right? So yeah, I know I researched online, but I get there, and I still think there's a decision point in the store that can change you left, right, or center once you get to the store, right? Even though you come in there and you go like, I'm going to get this one, and then you go, oh, I didn't even see that one, kind of thing,
I think you're 100% right, because at that point, the assortment's been curated, especially you think about, right, the idea of a snowblower. Yeah. And I think that what retailers have started to understand is that with people and their devices, people will use their phones to research everything. It's less about making a decision on technology being introduced in store and more about how do you leverage the technology that's in the pockets of your consumer. And I think there's some smart ones out there that have done, simple QR codes. Scan here, read the reviews.
That's such a great point, because in the news last week, Amazon announced they're closing their Amazon Fresh grocery stores, which in the latest iteration that I saw and experienced had a smart card connected to QR codes in the ceiling. And I thought it was actually pretty good. Because it knew where you were, so it would make you offers and tell you information. Of course, if you are or not signed in as a Prime member, relevant to your situation, right? So I thought it was your point about QR codes, basic tech, but this idea that I'm just going to convey information in the right context, I think is where I still think there's opportunity. Call it retail media. I mean, put an ad for an F-150 Ford truck on there to take the snowblower home or whatever. But I think that gets a bit, my risk. I worry about retail media, and I'm jumping around here a little bit, but I'm following some kind of natural thread that the retail media starts to get in the way of customer experience. And have you seen that? I've seen that myself. I get a newsletter from a big box store, and every newsletter is trying to sell me a toilet. Well, I don't need a toilet. I never expressed any interest in a toilet. I don't buy plumbing stuff, but clearly somebody who sells toilets is paying for retail media, right?
My friend, I was coming out of yesterday's RCC event. I had that same thought about retail media. Its success will depend on the intent of the team that is producing it. If the goal is to generate revenue and leverage this as an alternate revenue channel and flow, this will quickly become a friction point for consumers. If the goal is to improve the experience for the customer through the journey, through the flow, with a complement of messaging, then I think you're going to find success. You're going to see the success come through incremental purchase as well as improved basket size. But I feel like it can be easily blown apart if people's motivation is, I need to generate revenue from all of my vendors, from all of these externals who want to talk to my specific customer.
Yeah, interesting. Real content management challenge and opportunity. Now let's change direction a little bit. You and I often talk about this small to mid retailer and large retailers. We were talking about it yesterday, and it is often, but not singularly, the case that the smaller, mid-sized retailers kind of outpace the larger chains in digital agility. Has that been your experience? And what can the big retailers learn from the small to mids that they can apply in their larger format?
I think it's absolutely the case, and a real benefit for either small brands and retailers or brands that hadn't invested in technology in the last 15 years. They're going to move a lot faster. And I think the real challenge is that the friction point or or customer experience challenges or hiccups that are happening in the process, there's the person that's closest to it isn't the person solving for it anymore. In big brands go through, let's document it, let's submit it, let's track it, assess it, let's prioritize it. And by the end of that whole process, you could be looking at it, 3 to 6 months. Whereas when you're in smaller brands or smaller retailers, the people that are making the decisions to implement the change are the closest to it. They're not going through the layers of decision making and bureaucracy that's happened. There's a reason why, large brands are large. They've had success and they've grown and they've put in more systems and more processes. These small brands don't have legacy technology. They don't have layers of processes to deal with. These small brands are seeing either an opportunity or a friction point. They're getting together, they're discussing it, and they're implementing change. And I think that's what it was like, when we were first launching e-commerce and websites in Canada, is that we were testing, and we were actually testing and learning. We would push a button. I mean, Michael, there was a time I took every toy off the Toys R Us website because I pushed a button. I just pushed it. I didn't realize what it was going to do. And the next day I went, where are all my toys? I don't have any toys.
Was that delete all button? Did that really do that?
Oh, don't push that button.
Whatever you do not push this button. I need to find out. I need to find out what happens when I do that.
Yeah.
We're about 15, 16 minutes in. We haven't said AI yet, so that's somewhat of a record these days in such conversation. So, what use cases right now are essential for retailers, and how do they distinguish real value from hype? And I think of this in two dimensions. One is internal, process-driven, and then the second, and we heard a bit of this again on the stage last week at the Rona presentation, is on customer-facing, building authority or whatever that, whatever notion you want, and how fast that's moving on how consumers are using AI. How are you thinking about it?
I think the most impactful use case for AI right now is on the inventory side. Inventory and assortment planning, especially if you have multi-locations. If you're 50, 80, 300 stores, I think Rona said they had 400 stores, thousands of SKUs. The ability to actually understand the SKUs and the assortments that should be in each store, the actual are they turning? Is this aged inventory? I think that AI in helping merchant teams and inventory planners, that's going to be critical. You can make such better decisions because when you build it on legacy data, okay, let's leave the pandemic out, but when you build it on legacy data, there's so many trends that can be interpreted that humans can't interpret. And I really do think that retailers that are leveraging it where big data is key, like inventory and seasonality, they're going to be successful in making better decisions. I think on the customer facing front, there's definitely some opportunities in optimization of ads, but I really think it's in the customer experience on the website. There was a time, 10 years ago, chatbots came out, and I can remember being on stage and debating chatbots, and that I had a legacy mindset, and it was probably based on, I think, my human call center reps can do better than technology. And at that 10 years ago, I was right. Now, the technology that's out there that's able to assist customers, I think is fantastic. And I mean low touch customer. Where's my order? Do you have this product in store in my Newmarket location? Things like that can quickly and easily be solved by leveraging AI. And then, the idea of AI that's complemented with humans, right? It actually makes humans better at their jobs because they're doing more thoughtful work versus more redundant work.
Sticking with AI, we saw again last week, and just ripping from the headlines, Amazon announcing more cuts, and they've been very clear. Said we've loaded up a lot of people. We think it's a huge amount of risk. We see AI and robotics really replacing a lot of people. They're very clear. It's going to replace, not, maybe at some point they might create jobs. Right now they think, their objective is to get less people out of those warehouses. Now, as AI automates these tasks, like you just described, how do retailers think about their workforce strategy? I mean, I worry that on two dimensions. One, I worry that by eliminating a lot of the introductory roles and replace them by AI, you never have people who can get past that to the management level. So how do you preserve, A, the human experience, and B, build the future ranks of skilled managers?
I think there's a mindset shift that needs to happen within a lot of organizations. Introducing and implementing technology or AI shouldn't be based on the goal of reducing headcount. It should be on making the people on your teams better. And if you can wrap your head around that and start to implement training, it means that I don't have to do the same thing 100 times during the day. I can actually do 5 things that are going to truly leverage and make a difference based on somebody else doing the 100 things. And I think if organizations can start looking at their teams on how does technology make this human better at what they do, they're going to see more productivity come out of it. I think the challenge right now is that, everyone's facing pressures from an economics perspective. There's a lot of change that's happening. If we can start to think about how do I invest in critical decision making within my leadership base? How can I help them understand choices that they can make with technology and data? That's going to be the future of your leadership team. If you can take out the how do I reduce my headcount into how do I train them to make better, different decisions with this overwhelming amount of data, that's where the strength happens. AI should always be a complement. It's a tool in the toolbox of the leaders within your organization. It's never going to replace them. And I do think that if HR teams and leaders can start to think about that, I think it's actually going to be more challenging for senior leaders. Senior leaders whose strength has been in developing leaders have to now become almost technologists, where they're looking at how do I leverage technology and how do I leverage humans, and how do I build an organization or an org structure that integrates both seamlessly.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the future with retailers. What's going to set exceptional retailers apart this year and moving forward? What bold moves should CEOs consider now to make sure their brand is, as my partner Steve Dennis says, remarkable and not stuck in the boring middle?
I think they're going to have to shed some of the legacy strategies. I think those that are going to that are really going to make some momentous shifts, those are going to be the ones that are going to take a little bit more risk. They're not going to go through the normal process of assessment, evaluation, approval. They're going to shorten the decision process. They're going to kind of have a very select group of leaders in their organization that are making decisions. And they're going to truly do test and learn, but they're going to be doing test and learn that is visible by the consumer. And I think that there are brands out there that are trying different things that aren't resonating. There's brands that are doing things that are just absolute home runs. We were talking about NRF and just some of the conversations about brands that are taking advantage of cultural moments that are happening. Right. So I think of Tecovas when I think of that most recently in my mind, because they jumped on the great writer Taylor Sheridan. So he wrote Yellowstone, and then they backed him on Landman, and they're all wearing Landman. In Landman, they're all wearing Tecovas stuff. So I think that's a great example of just being
being aware, though, right? You've got to have a team ready to take advantage of that.
Yes.
That just doesn't come organically. All right. Last thing, and then I want to get to this new media property of yours, and then make sure people can find you, and you can tell them what to find you about, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Rapid fire, wired or tired? Wired or tired? All right.
Okay.
First one, custom built LLMs.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Am I allowed to do that?
You're allowed to, yeah, you're allowed to do it. It's wired and tired. It's wired. You know, it can be both. But okay,
it can be both.
If you had a choice, though, you know, it feels like a lot of people are putting a lot of money into LLMs, but then everybody has them. So, right? Yeah. Is that what two ways you're going?
I'm going to say it's tired in that it is not a silver bullet. It is not going to be transformational. It is not going to, turn your business around. Mm-hmm. I think that people that think there's a silver bullet out there to help them in retail, they're the ones that are failing. This is tired. If you think that's the strategy, it's not a strategy. It's technology and it's a tool.
All right. Substack subscriptions.
I have many, and now I'm overwhelmed, and now I don't want to do any. I think that it's been abused, and everybody jumped on it. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody jumped on it, and now I'm just like, no, because with AI being able to create content, I'm now starting to see more people are just doing it, but it's all just AI generated content, and I don't want to consume that. I can go and consume that elsewhere. So
you can overwhelm you can overwhelm yourself in any number of media. Most productive thing you do all day.
I still talk to humans. I love networking. I love asking questions. I love understanding different perspectives. That's why I went to the RCC Rona event. I wanted to understand how that brand has been working through its journey, because they've had a rocky road and they're emerging and they're finding success. I want to understand people's journeys so that I can, as I talk to other people, make recommendations that are not just founded on my own lived experience, but really just experiences of others. So I'm a connector, and I collect data. I'm an LLM.
All right. AI chatbots for retail customer service. Wired or tired?
I think it's wired.
Okay.
I do.
You're a fan. All right. Trade shows.
Tired.
Networking dinners.
Wired.
All right. Let's talk about this new media property of yours. I say of yours, but you've got together with some great friends of mine and industry sharp thinkers. Tell us all about it.
Well, I have partnered with David Nagy, Johnny Russo, and Chris Parsons, and we have come out with Commerce Rewired. And our goal is to actually have great debates. You know those conversations you have at networking dinners where you're debating solutions, you're trying to find different vendors, you're trying to get to the heart of some of the challenges we're all facing. We want to surface that. We want to have those conversations. We want to debunk certain assumptions that are happening in retail. And, given we've been around for a while, we've got a few years under our belt. We've seen some trends. We've seen things come and stick. And so you're going to see articles come out from us. You're going to see podcasts come out from us. Exciting. And we're really going to debate it from our different perspectives. And we're excited for it. No swear words, no mocking, just some great retail debate. Right, so you'll need to engage with us. You can connect with us through LinkedIn. You can follow Commerce Rewired. We're open to questions. We want to be able to talk to our audience and understand what are the challenges you're facing. And, we'll go out, we'll do surveys with Canadians. We'll talk to them. We'll bring data. We're going to have some great debates. And I think that I'm hoping that retailers are really going to appreciate it. Such a crazy time.
Do you have how do people ask you questions? Do you have a special LinkedIn page for Commerce Rewired, or what do you have?
We do.
Oh, okay.
Commerce Rewired on LinkedIn. Follow us. And that's when we're going to start to, collect what's keeping you up at night. What can we help you solve? All
right. Now, what do you do, and how do people get in touch with you? So you've told us, obviously, your background, but a little bit less about what you do today. So tell the people listening about how they tap into your wisdom and how to get in touch with you.
I spend a lot of time with founders right now. Commerce Rewired is focused more on the larger brands and larger retailers, but I also want to support the founders, and I'll say I focus on female founders. You can connect with me through LinkedIn or send me an email at tara@commercerewired.co, and I will answer.
Wonderful. Well, it's great to have another voice, another set of voices on the platforms and in the media and there to help retailers. So congratulations on that. I look forward to subscribing and following and do all those great things. And thanks again so much for joining me on the podcast. It's great to chat with you. I think we could do several conversations about all kinds of different things, but such a great start and a great start to the year. So I wish you continued success and good golfing, because I think you're going to go do a little bit of golf and get away from this snow. So
yes,
hit them.
Need to escape. Thank you, Michael. This has been long overdue, but I appreciate spending time with you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker. If you want more content or chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.